Ladies and gentlemen, come here.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado, this is cute. Okay. Awesome.
So then you guys know about like developers and what you need to mix. Yeah. Always mix according to the person's hair that you're working on. So I use a lot of really high lift developers because I'm like really fast and I have 2-3 people at a time doing something that's usually getting as blonde as possible. And I've experimented with it to the point of like when I was in beauty school, I would literally cover my doll head excuse me, in bleach and just let it sit until I watched that hair actually fall off. Like I did weird stuff like that. So I really like pushed my limits to figure out how to lighten. So if you do want to get into something, whether it's fashion colors or blondes or balayage, whatever it may be, experiment. You have to learn firsthand how that works. I mean, you can watch YouTube videos, you can read about it, but it's totally different when you're the one applying it, figuring out what you need to look for if you want to do a pastel or a blue or something like what you have. So be hands-on about it. So I'm going to mix for her a 40, which isn't that scary when you know how to use it, with a high lift. Well, I'm going to use bleach today. So yeah, that's it. I'm using a matrix bleach. So like in the salon, it might be the purple one. Yes. I'll double check. Yeah, so I do like that one. In the salon, a lot of times we use the Aveda, which is amazing. It's like a really conditioning bleach. And there are other products to help you get what you want to do, like Brazilian Bond Builder, Olaplex, things like that. So you just have to experiment, guys, to figure out what works for you. And sometimes I'll use different lighteners depending on what type of hair I'm working on. So if I have someone who has really dark, coarse, crazy, frizzy hair, I'm going to use something different on them that I might use on like a half. So once in a while, I can get a client really, really light in one session. But more often than not, they will need 2 or 3 visits to get them there. But that's something that really comes with, again, knowing your products. And the only way to know about them is to try them either on yourself or on your dolls or on your friends who don't really care about their hair anyway. You know, I did a lot of experimenting, guys. And I'm pretty sure anyone could tell you the same thing. It's kind of funny because Ricardo and I have, you know, we're different generations of hairdressing, but we have similar stories as to how we went about learning what we like to do. Okay, so when you do balayage, I don't know if that's something you guys learned in school because it is kind of like a specialty art form more than like a traditional hair service. But you can literally section it any way you want. So you have to look at her hair, talk to her, figure out what she wants, what you want to do. Does she want to be really light? Does she just want a couple pieces that stand out? Does she want light framing her face, or does she want to leave this a little darker? So you usually want to start the lighter pieces around the points of her face that are like, you want to highlight, kind of like hair cutting. So let's say she has really awesome eyes. Then I want to make sure I can bring this color around to frame that a little bit more. So what I'm going to show you guys today, just so it's kind of easier, is I'm going to section her hair into 4 traditional quadrants and show you guys a couple techniques that you can build on. So people go to their hairdresser for a balayage because they have their own stroke per se. So you know how you have like painters and everyone's paintings look a little different even if they're using the same material? It's the same idea. So you have some people who are using sponges or toothbrushes, or they do crazy stuff like cut hair with fire. You know, everyone has like their own spin on achieving basically the same thing. If I cut hair with scissors, I don't need fire. It's going to look short regardless. But you put your own spin on it. And that's what's kind of fun about like fashion colors, like a balayage or, you know, a punky color, whatever it might be, is that you can apply it however you want. But for a balayage, the only thing that is a little different is you have to have like an idea as to how to do the placement so you have enough light and dark. And if you guys have any questions or you can't see, like you can scoot closer, you can ask, you can shout. I'm going to, yeah. But I'm going to start back here so you guys can hopefully get a better view. Okay, so I'm sectioning out about 1 inch from the bottom, just to show you guys how I'm going to do the first bit. Let's figure this out. Bear with me as I get used to this tray. Has anyone in here done a balayage? Yeah? Mm-hmm. Do you guys like it? Yeah. Yeah, they're fun. Okay, thanks. Okay, so for this piece, I'm basically going to take the whole section, put lightener on her ends, and then brush it up. And don't be afraid to get a little messy with this, guys. Be careful where you grab the hair because you don't want to put blotches of lightener all throughout those parts. But on the ends, get it on there. And then feather up that lightener with your brush or your sponge or your fingers or whatever it is that you want to use. And don't have an assistant like Ricardo who's turning your hands around.
I want these guys to
You guys can move if you can't see.
You guys need to walk out.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Wait, can you say that again? You were saying
about the ends.
The ends.
Okay, so I'm putting the lightener on the ends. I'm starting there. Whereas opposed to a highlight, you kind of start in the middle and work it down and up, whatever you're doing. I'm starting there and then I'm feathering it upward. So for this, I'm doing a V where I'm pulling up the lightener on the sides of the section. Because what that does is the hair falls, it's going to have lightness on different levels. It's like graduating cuts, but with color. It's the same kind of concept in terms of the placement. And if I say anything that doesn't make sense, guys, ask me.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
You don't use the paddle?
I don't. I feel like...
Do you want me to lay out the foils, or is it easier to grab them like that?
Oh, it's okay. And then as far as laying it, it's up to you guys. You don't have to use foil. You can use paper. A lot of people don't use anything. I like to use foil because it's processing speed. It keeps it warmer. And it's a little more controlled. So I go over and then just bend the foil because I like to come back, open it, and check it. So just like that. I'm going to just fold that up. And then do this. Who cares? It's your apron. That's what it's for. Get used to using it. I know they sell so many pretty ones, but it's literally for your use, not so much fashion. Okay, so for the next piece, I'll show you a different way to do it, where you can go through and do like, almost like highlights, but the difference with the highlights, and again, there's no like right or wrong way to do this because it is a balayage. They can be really thin sections, they can be thick, they can be irregular. It's actually better if they're irregular because that really breaks up the pattern, and that's the whole point of the look. So,
Oh wait, really quick. You were saying why you don't use a board.
oh, just because I don't like to have all this extra stuff.
Oh, okay.
So some people do, and a lot of times if you're more meticulous, like we have a guy at our salon, we call him the professor, because he's really, really meticulous, and he does awesome work, and that works for him, but I'm more of like the creative type who's kind of, you know, I could get busted for a lot of stuff I do that I shouldn't do. But if a paddle helps you, go for it. But what also helps is just having the client lean their head forward a little bit, if their hair's a little longer. I mean, you just pull it out, really. You're basically doing the ends and painting it. So, if you guys are used to using a paddle, though, there's nothing wrong with that.
You weaved though?
Sorry?
You weaved it?
Yeah, so I weaved it. I'm doing the same thing, putting the lightener on the ends, and then with the same lightener that I have here, just pulling it upward on those sides, like a V. And then if you do want to go through the middle, you can. There's no like major rules, guys. This is just how to kind of get the most dramatic dimension. So you go through, pull it up. You can do one of these methods. You can do both. You can do, seriously, you can section it zigzag. Whatever helps you, make sure that it's really broken up. That's what's going to help you get a good look. Because the worst is when someone has like a balayage or an ombre. I don't really know what the difference is anymore. But when they have one of those and it's like dark and then just like a line, like they dip their hair and then it's blonde. That's not really appealing to anybody, I don't think. And for this, it's all about blending too. So you want to make sure that when you get in there to feather your lightener, you have a really soft hand. Does anyone in here like to do makeup? You know how when you're blending eyeshadow or whatever it may be, you have to have like less tension?
When we can't see.
So it's the same thing. Put tension on your brush when you're putting the lightener on the ends, and then soften that touch as you go up.
So if you were doing this in a salon, you can get this all on in 30 minutes.
Probably. Yeah. But that's because I just do so much of it. I really, like, I do a lot of this primarily.
Not only does she do this kind of heavy, extensive type of color, she does 2 or 3 or 4 at a time.
How many assistants do you have?
None.
Well, it depends on the day.
Her and I were just talking about that. I said, Q, it's time. You got to get an assistant. Anybody interested in being an assistant?
Wants to
I get
come
my
to
license in May.
All right, call me, guys. Text me.
Nice.
Yeah, we're in Newport Beach, actually. So we're right on the beach in a really awesome area, and our salon is really fun because we blast music.
Yeah.
And have really cool clients. We're lucky. Not every place is like that, but if you have a good attitude and you're kind of one of those people, you will attract people like that. And side note, your friends here at school, guys, keep in touch with each other, because now that I'm licensed and I'm working and all those things, my girlfriends who still do hair and are still in the industry, I call them up for everything. Shows, makeup, I need this, I need that, I have a, whatever it may be, and they're like the ones I can bank on, because no matter who I meet out in the industry, you do make friends, but it's a little different. They're not people who saw you get better in school, who worked. Sorry?
How much are you feathering up on this side?
It depends. So on some sections, I will go all the way to the top. On others, I'll go a little lower. Underneath, you don't have to pull it as high, because when the hair falls, that's covered anyway. But on the top and on the front, I'll do it a little bit differently. So
you're already starting to move it up higher.
A little bit, yeah. And then the reason I'm not worried about leaving these chunks out is because typically I'll go through and then just touch those with lightener. And this can kind of hang. I can blend it up with my fingers, whatever it may be. Because the whole point of this look is to have lightness. Like, that is the goal. No one likes going to get a balayage and then they still look like, you know, they're a brunette, or like they have golden blonde highlights that are grown out at the ends. That's not the point. So you do want it to be predominantly lighter, but you really need it to blend into that base. So a good way to upsell this service, because a lot of people go into it because they're like, oh, I'm really bad about getting my hair done. I just want to grow out my hair, but I want it to look trendy. You can actually do something like a color melt. So I don't know if you guys have done that. Or if you have a client who has a lot of gray, or their base is like way too dark for how light their ends are, excuse me, you can put color on their base and blend it into this. Or let's say you want, like, what's her name, Amber, the blonde who was in here? Let's say she's like, ugh, this blonde upkeep is horrible, I'm sick of it. You can put color on her base and blend that down, basically doing exactly what I'm doing, but opposite.
Yeah, get it from the other direction.
Yeah. And you can even, for that, sometimes I'll take a comb and kind of brush it through so that it really breaks up those lines.
And are you heavily saturating, though?
On the ends, I am.
On the ends, but not when
Not on the top.
Okay.
So on the top, it'll be like I'm barely touching it, or I'm going over it with the side of my brush. Okay. Figuring out a brush that you like to do this with, too, is really important.
Favorite brush?
I really like this size, personally, because I like to have the control.
Probably what we have in our kit.
Is it? Yeah, I love these guys. But I don't like the big ones, because I feel like it just gets everywhere. I can't watch it as well. But figure out what works for you guys. I'm serious. Some people really do use toothbrushes.
Yeah, have you ever used like a paintbrush? Or, like,
I've tried a lot of stuff.
Ones? Like they make this special like balayage little, it looks like makeup brushes.
The thing that's kind of cool and kind of bad about like the balayage technique and trend is that there's a lot of stuff available, but a lot of it is the industry just capitalizing on the lack of desire to get creative with what works for you. So they have like special lighteners that actually do help. They're like clay-based lighteners, and those are a little less runny. So those are good because it'll just hold the color. So I don't know if you guys ever go on Instagram and you see people like painting it on and they don't have foils, they just do it. That's usually going to be a clay-based lightener because it's a thicker consistency, it doesn't dry out as fast, things like that. But you have to figure out what lightener works for you. So for the kind of lightening I do, typically clay-based lighteners won't get me light enough. So
have you ever used the diamond bleach?
Diamond. I don't think
it's
so.
like it comes in like a plastic bag though. It's like a Ziploc look kind of. It's
Who
like
makes
really
it?
weird. I don't know, and that's a weird thing. It's like no one like that does a lot of other color or anything else. It's like a specialty. It's like where it lifts really fast.
Oh.
But I don't know. I've like
I would
seen
try it.
Yeah, no. I was just wondering because a lot of salons. I worked in a salon before I came and I assisted, and a few of the stylists used that because it was just so fast and like really gave it like that white look.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing too, guys. You don't want to zap the hair. So I know I'm using like a high developer and things like that. But the goal is to still keep the integrity of the hair. Now, don't tell a client that they're going to have perfectly healthy hair no matter what if they want to be platinum blonde. That's just not part of the territory. But what you can tell the client is what products work to help them maintain their color, to help make their hair feel moisturized and smooth or repair it, things like that. And know what you're talking about. I think that's a big part of it too. Is, you know, I've seen stylists who are trying to sell, let's say, a split end repair. Can you guys actually repair split ends?
No.
Right. So we learn that in school, but for some reason when people get out of school, they forget it, and they buy into the hype of whatever it is that this company's trying to market. So remember that, because when you get out there and you start looking for products, you want to be aware of what's going to actually work and what's not, because you don't want to lose trust. I think that's the biggest thing. And sometimes, we were actually talking about this in the class yesterday, that by doing maybe a complimentary service or a deep conditioner or a haircut or whatever it may be, builds that trust. And that trust is required to maintain that client. Even if you do like an awesome job, it's not just about doing a good job. It's probably, what, 30% is your skill set, and the rest is your personality and your attitude and your patience with the client, and being willing to sit there and try to understand what it is that they're going for or accommodate whatever it is that, you know, they need to know. So have that in mind too.
I think you're right, but I also think that in nowadays, to be very competitive, I think you got to deliver both. I think you have to have that, and then you have to be able to,
you have to know what you're doing,
but
you have to be nice.
Yeah, exactly. No, you definitely have to be a nice person.
I know a lot of really talented people, guys, who have sour attitudes and don't want to show up to work unless it's totally 1,000% convenient to them. And it's kind of sad to see people who end up having to get out of the industry when they have the skill set, they have the knowledge, but they just don't have the attitude.
Or they're arrogant with people.
Yeah.
People don't want any part of that in reality.
Yeah, and remind yourself, this is a physical job. You will be tired. Your feet will hurt. Your back will hurt. You will be sick of talking to people. That's part of it. But it's really rewarding at the same time.
You'll crawl out some nights of the salon.
Yeah. At the last hair show, I probably had the funnest time of my life, but I had lost my voice for 3 days. I've never actually like socially overdosed until that time. And I was like, wow, I need to hide in a cave. But I actually was fully booked that whole week thereafter because I was going on a trip. And you just have to suck it up.
It's fun. The adrenaline
keeps
you pumped, and especially when you work in teams. It's really fun to do hair with other people. It's not as much fun to do hair alone.
It's not, yeah. Like literally at our salon, every person's clients are a reflection of them. Like someone can walk in and we're like, oh, that's his client, oh, that's her client. You know, just within 5 minutes of talking to them. Okay, so guys, here on top, I'm doing it a little differently. I'm taking really thin, little highlighted sections. I guess they're technically baby lights. And these you can pull almost all the way up. So for her...
I'm blocking them.
Oh.
They're giving me devil eyes.
Yeah, we need security. So for this part, I'm not going to go all the way, but I'll go pretty high. And for this one, you can spread the lightener evenly.
Are you still doing it V-shaped?
No, not right here. So this is more like a traditional highlight. So once you start getting a little higher, you can start weaving in some highlights. Do like maybe every other highlight or section, or if you're doing like heavy baby lights, you can do every section, but just make sure that you blend it differently at different lengths, because otherwise you get a line. So for this one, I'll go a little higher. For the next one, maybe a little lower.
But for the last 2 or 3 subsections that you do at the crown at the top, you're going to do baby light.
Okay. Yeah. And these guys, you can really play with it and customize it. You could do it really heavy and literally lighten everything, but still have the depth that's left with highlighting just by doing like, you know, little highlights. Or you can still mix it in, do the V, do the baby light, whatever. Just pull it a little higher. So I'll do a mixture. So you see how I was leaving hair out on those bottom sections? Up here, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to highlight every piece or apply lightener to every piece. Do you guys have any questions? No?
Yeah.
What do you guys want to specialize in? Does anyone want to do color primarily?
I was thinking about that.
Yeah. Well, you should honestly get as good as you can at everything, because actually how I started building my clientele was with makeup, which I never wanted to do like professionally, but that's how I got in with Ricardo. And then from there it became like updo styling, and I wasn't like the best, but I wasn't the worst. So I would actually have to like watch YouTube videos before I would go in, because I wouldn't turn a client away. I didn't want Ricardo to know I didn't know how to do it. So fake it till you make it, guys. Have I ever said no to anything?
No, see, that's great.
Even like a keratin treatment,
will not
guys.
say
I was
no.
so stressed out, but I was like, okay, I have to figure this out.
If you want to pick up on, you've got to be a yes person. Yes.
Yeah.
The word no can't come out of your mouth.
Yeah.
No is for weaklings.
And a lot of times those projects that are intimidating, maybe a smoothing treatment or something like that, those are big money projects. Let's say even a color correction, that's a big money project. That client's going to have to come to you several times, and they're going to keep coming to you. And then when all their friends want to be blonde too, then their friends come to you. Sorry if I hurt you. You're an awesome model. I forgot you're even like a real person.
She's not breathing even.
I know. She doesn't move. She hasn't said anything. Okay, so you will find pieces of the hair, like this little section, that are a little more processed. So maybe it doesn't look like it, but I can feel it as I run my fingers over it, as I run my comb through it. So for this, you have two options. You can either use a lower volume developer, in which case you have to go mix. You can try to weave out the pieces that still are a little healthier than other parts. You can suggest a haircut. I always, when someone wants to go blonde, my first conversation with them is, how much are you willing to trim off your hair? Because guess what? Sometimes someone can go really, really blonde, but they're going to have to sacrifice 2 inches. And a lot of people are pretty open to that. Like, you'd be surprised. Or some people are like, yeah, cut it off, do whatever. I just want this to match so I can get extensions. So you need to talk to your client. Don't assume everyone wants the same thing. I was that client who would do like crazy stuff to my hair. And, you know, I'd come in one day platinum blonde. I'd come in one day wanting blue black, this, you know, and I wanted it then and there. I didn't care what it cost. I didn't care what the sacrifice was. I didn't care if I'd go bald. I just wanted it. So, and there's a lot of people like that. So talk to them, figure out what they're willing to risk to get what they want to do. But you should always advise them to do what's going to be healthiest for their hair. But talk to them. Because a lot of times with services like this, let's say lightening, and I'm leaving out just her little ends so you guys can see that.
Are you almost to the root?
Yeah.
Well, you're not. Oh, you're going to leave out the ends. Right, okay.
Yeah. What was I saying?
Talk to your clients about keeping their hair healthy.
If they're willing to cut their hair and all of
I'm
that.
gonna cut their hair. I lost it, guys. It'll come back to me probably at
I
like
have
4
a
in the morning.
question.
Yeah.
You don't go all the way to the root, right? Because then that creates the line.
I wouldn't go all the way, because just like highlighting, bleach will swell, and
Yeah.
you want to avoid tiger stripes, especially with
Yeah.
something like this, because you're leaving so much of the darkness of the hair. So you can go really, really close. And also, if you're slicing, you can go closer. It's just that sometimes when you're weaving it, it's easy to get it just a little too far, it'll like bleed out over the foil. But when you get closer, use less lightener.
Just very light, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What's the difference between like, well, I mean, you would never slice a subsection and just paint the whole thing.
You can.
Right? I mean, except for only in balayage though, right? It's not like, I mean,
If you're doing highlights, you can slice.
but like
That's
you would
close to
still
the
weave
scalp.
it, wouldn't you though? Wouldn't you still weave the slice?
You don't have to.
No,
You don't have to?
or
Okay.
if you're doing like
I've never
peekaboos,
seen that, yeah.
like let's say someone has like black hair and they
Oh,
want,
I
like,
see what you're saying, and then
you
you slide
slice those
back.
sections.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, got it.
You can also do something like weave one section, slice the next.
Yeah.
Because the slice on the second section will also come out as a weave because half
Yeah.
the hair is.
Play around with it, I guess.
Yeah.
And see how it comes out.
You need to.
When you're going up high again?
Yeah. So
I
this
think
one I'm going up
the
higher.
art of being a good.
So when you're done, are you toning her and everything?
Depends what she lifts to. Sometimes someone, a natural blonde especially, might not need to be toned with toner. You can use purple shampoo or some kind of shampoo. Let's say they want to be a pastel, they lift to a high 9. I can use a pink shampoo and get them with that pastel pink. And now there's so many things like that. Like I just did a girl's hair for the hair show, like a pastel-y strawberry blonde mix, and then we dyed hot pink extensions and put it in. And all we used was a shampoo. You know, have you guys heard of like the celeb luxury?
The viral.
Viral, yeah. So those guys.
It even works on my hair still.
Really?
Like the hot pink, like it'll turn it like a reddish.
I want to try like the
magenta
light
almost.
blue on myself or something.
Oh, that yeah. These are
That'd be
pretty.
cool. Okay, so for this last little section, guys, you have a couple options. You can either do the V, like we were doing earlier. You can weave it really thin. For this, I'm gonna just do the V because I feel like it'll fall over a little nicer. But these last few parts are really up to you. Just make sure whatever you do, you're blending it in, Make that like your number one thought when you're going through and applying this color. Is how can I avoid lines?
Remember when we were doing the cuts, the aeration with the long shears inside, and our goal was to create almost like invisible layers. Same kind of concept. And you want to have put in something that's unpredictable, but yet that's one of the hardest things to do in the world is like predictably
unpredict.
Exactly. That's the true art of it.
And if you guys go online and you look at people's Instagrams and you see their balayage, everyone's looks different. There isn't necessarily a right way to do it. The only wrong way to do it would be not blending it. So as far as placement, it can be just a few sections. Some people just want the top with like a little bit of, sun-kissed parts throughout. What sun-kissed means is just pieces that are balayaged. And the balayage is just the way you apply the color. And you can do this with color too, guys. If you have, a natural blonde or whatever,
Beautiful.
Brunette, and she has virgin hair and she wants to lift it with color, you can.
Beautiful.
Just know that it's going to be warmer. Okay. So do you guys feel like you'd be comfortable trying this, like, on your own? Or you're still freaked out?
Little.
Kind of?
Little.
Why?
Come on, this is West Valley. These guys are.
Purple, yeah. So something like that helps. Or they even make yellow shampoos, which are awesome. Which is like a weird idea, right? Because purple shampoo is all the craze.
When you use the yellow shampoos, it creates like this, like sort of a buttery kind of color. It's really cool.
And it just helps cancel out some of that ash.
You can bring it back to neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And get familiar, guys, with your shampoos, your toning shampoos. Those are a huge asset, especially for blondes, so that they can maintain their color, so that you can avoid toning. Because every time you tone hair, even though it does fade out, you're still depositing color.
Yeah.
And depositing that color will always make that hair a little warmer. So blonde hair, like let's say you're my color, my hair will turn brassy from the water from my shower, from oils that have colors in them. If I use like let's say like Moroccan oil, my hair eventually starts looking more yellow because it's absorbing that color.
There's a color that we like in the salon. It's we were talking about the other day. It's like a very relevant, cool, hip, like right now, perfect for what's happening is Fanola. You guys know Fanola?
Yeah, Fanola's the bomb. It's purple shampoo. They have a whole line, but their purple shampoo is like life-changing. And everyone who works over there is really cool, so you're also supporting a really awesome company. Okay.
How long did it take you guys to get here today?
3 hours.
3 hours.
Yep. Okay, guys, so for these pieces that are hanging out, I'm not going to do this now, I'm going to do it at the end, but just so you guys know, because I'm going to speed up the front a little, is you go through and put a little lightener on the ends. And what that does is it makes it lighter, and put it on, it doesn't have to be even, you don't have to foil these, you can if you want, but it also creates just a little bit of dimension in the shades of blonde. So these guys are going to be the lightest. These guys will be just a little darker unless the goal is to have everything like my color. So keep that in mind. Okay, so for the front, you can do it 2 different ways. Option 1, you can do like a horseshoe. Sorry, you guys can't see that. You can do a horseshoe and section out like her crown so that you can color that. You can section this, pull it back, and do the foils the same way you did here, but pulling them and directing them this way. Or, what I like to do is section out the hairline, because these guys are fragile. So like every time I do my hair, it's my hairline that gets wrecked because they're already like platinum blonde baby hairs. So section these guys out, do this part like you did back here, and then after go through, paint these and pull them back. And it also helps you just kind of watch them better since this hair is a little more fragile.
Why would you pull it backwards?
Just so it's not on her face. Oh. Yeah. And it's covered in bleach.
Although there is a little sub sort of interesting thing to that. Remember how when you pull hair to over direct it to cut it?
Yeah, that's true.
When you over direct it, it will create a little irregularity in the color. So a little part of that unpredictable thing.
Now, as far as the placement for this front quadrant, guys, always try to have your lighter pieces right here in the front. Can you guys see that in the mirror? So right there. And it's like a peekaboo. You're slicing out those areas. Well, you're not slicing, but you're envisioning the placement of that blonde so that more of it's laying in the same spot, and that's how you get that light color that kind of frames the face.
Right.
So not one highlight isn't going to do it. You have to have layers because that blonde has to travel down in order to frame the face.
Do you guys know what color mapping is? It's nothing more than just visualizing your placement.
A little more even. The only thing that helps me in terms of blending is having less product here, because then it's a softer blend.
You're sort of feathering it.
Mm-hmm.
So you feather like that, you don't need to go back and do the marcation line, right? A lot of people go back and like with their fingers kind of like run it through after.
That's really personal preference,
Yeah,
but I feel like the finger thing, it's still going to leave a line, and I really don't like lines. And once in a while, you will get them, guys. Like, don't expect every single time you do hair to be 100% perfect. Obviously, that's the goal. But once in a while, there will come a time where you have to be like, you know what, I need to lift this section a little more, or I need to tone you one more time. And it's okay. Your client would rather sit there and go through that process of you correcting it than have to go home, hate their hair, send you an awkward text about how they hate their hair, come back in a second time.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah,
just
tell their friends, trash you on Instagram.
take that extra, even if it's going to take an extra half an hour or maybe an hour, just bite the bullet and do it, because they're your work walking around, you know. And so if you see like a mark that you don't like, just go back in and change it.
Yeah, and sometimes you can even correct those spots by finding a color that's similar to whatever they have on their base and just filling that real quick. Pravana, they make a Chroma Silk Express toner that is awesome.
You just posted that on Instagram.
What is it called?
Did I? I'm obsessed with that stuff. It's Chroma Silk Express Toners by Pravana, and they have a whole range of colors. It started with like just 3.
Pretty.
Thanks. Yeah, and it then expanded. Now they have like 12 or something. So they have clear, beige, ash. I think they do have a gold. So I just have like mounds of ash because I'm just doing gray hair all day. But it depends. But finding good toners, guys, even helps you in terms of, like, let's say you get the hair, you want someone who wants white hair, right? You can't lift their hair white. I mean, on the rare occasion, you'll lift someone to where it maybe looks white in certain lighting, but that's not going to happen. You have to tone out any remaining pigment in there.
Have you used the Redken Shades EQ? Or
I have.
Do you not
There's
like
a couple combos you can mix. Redken's like, because actually we used that when I went to school. Who asked me that?
Yeah.
Okay. We used Redken at my school, and it's good in terms of understanding like the fundamentals of color and having products you can use. I do like Redken's deep conditioners and stuff a lot. I actually still use All Soft all the time. But there's lines that are so much more advanced that you can't use unless you're more familiar with color, like Aveda, and Ricardo will get into this. You literally have primary colors like red, green, blue, whatever, and you have to formulate your color. But what that does is it helps you from having a client who's like, hey, what color did you put on my head because I'm going to a different stylist or I'm moving or whatever. So I have clients who fly to come see me because I mixed a color that they can't buy in a box or buy at Sally's or buy anywhere else. It's not a, oh, I put a 7N on your hair, you're good. It's a, okay, I put, sometimes for fun, I'll tell them what I used and then they're like, okay, I'm just going to book an appointment.
Yeah.
You know?
7
Because I'm like, okay, I
colors,
dare you,
just-
try it.
Just to mess their mind up.
Yeah.
Do you like to use demi-permanent or permanent for toning?
That's a
I
good
always
question.
use demi.
Demi
Because the thing too with permanent color, you're almost ready to rinse.
It's got ammonia. You've already killed the hair. There's no reason to kill it
Well,
again.
and it doesn't deposit the same way. Because the minimum you can mix with it is like a 10 volume, right? A 5 just won't really do anything. It won't really budge. So you mix a 10, and then if that toner gets on her natural base, now you've got hot roots.
Yeah.
So it's not worth it. Okay, so I'm going to take her, and Ricardo's going to chat with you guys, and I'm probably going to rinse this back to that.
How about a half for Q? Wasn't that awesome, you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. We love this.
So you use like a 30 around the whole head? Conditioner?
Because it leads you through it from point to point to point if you know all these little pieces, okay? So here's kind of a quick story. So I'm going to go back into the, as you guys know, I was not a good color. And classic situation.
But seriously, Fanola will be like your favorite thing ever.
So I'm going to start now. I'm going to try to be basic. I'm going to try to be so basic right now, you guys. One of the reasons that
So we don't leave it in there for a little bit?
You can leave it a long time and it'll make it lavender, gray, or whatever. But the porosity in her hair is also different.
Yeah.
That some parts will pick up kind of weird if you don't rinse it too soon.
It looks awesome.
Thanks.
We love it, Jordan.
I'm excited. You're blonde there, that's for sure. It's funny because when it's wet, you can see how much blonder she is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This might have to sit a little longer because it wasn't a demi, so I just mixed it with a 10. Are you already toning?
The conditioner. You want help?
I got it now.
There, you got it.
Thank you.
and keeping the fingers ahead. That's all.